Today, let's talk about happiness. Happiness is a beautiful feeling. We all would love to be happy all the time. We want to stay happy. We want to experience more happiness. And that's the goal, right? That's the goal of our life. Now, when we think about happiness or when we talk about happiness, what is that thing that comes to our mind? Is it a person? Is it an item? Is it a situation? It could be anything. Different people can have different associations to happiness. But what this creates a sense of dependency. Knowingly or unknowingly, we are dependent on that person or that item or that situation for happiness. And for some reason, if it doesn't work out the way we feel, it also has the capacity to make us feel sad or depressed in extreme cases. So, if that's the case, then we try to sometimes replace that with a different person, replace that item with something else, or replace that situation with something else in our mind. And sometimes it could just be so irreplaceable that we cannot find a replacement for that. So, what causes this kind of dependency is because we are often taught to just look outside of us to find a source of happiness. And this is what we've learned. This is what we were conditioned to believe for the longest time possible. But here we are today talking about finding this happiness within ourselves. And we often forget to look within ourselves to find the source of happiness. And we ourselves is so constant in our life that this happiness that is found within ourselves, no one can take it away from us. And if we master the skill of finding happiness within ourselves, nothing can beat us. No one can beat us. And we are so loving and happy with everyone else. We are kind. We are kind with ourselves. We're kind with others, as well as we are feeling happiness from true center, that is ourselves. We're finding the center of happiness within ourselves. And it's a beautiful feeling. If we could just stay like that forever, it would be amazing. And why not? If we master that skill, maybe who knows, we could actually just stay so happy all the time and it's so independent. We are not depending on anyone outside of us to experience that feeling. And nothing has to occur for that feeling to happen. It's something that we find within ourselves. Now, how do we find this happiness within ourselves? How do we become the center of happiness? Well, the first step towards that is to realize that we are dependent on something outside of us for that same happiness. To find what are those factors in our life that makes us dependent. That is, finding out what creates the illusion of happiness, because all these external items that we associate with happiness is temporary and they're fragile. Anytime it could leave us, it could change, it could just turn out to be something that we cannot control because these factors are outside of us. And anything that's outside of us is out of our control. We cannot control these things. So that's the first step towards knowing and understanding what triggers happiness within you, what makes you happy. Just find out what those things are. The second step is the same thing we discussed in our previous episode about self acceptance. Self acceptance is accepting you for who you are before you strive to be the best version or trying to change who you are, which is okay. But before that, we need to accept us for who we are. You could watch it in the previous video about how to make self acceptance a norm in your life. So that would be the second step, which is to accept you for who you are. So take some time, sit with yourself, and make that happen. The third step would be to find out what are your core values. I'm not talking about getting promoted or getting a car or a house, which is great, but these are our goals. They are not necessarily our values. So we need to get clear on what our values are. What are these non negotiables in our life that maybe it could be integrity, maybe it could be honesty, maybe it's growth, constant growth of becoming your best version. Whatever your values are, be clear on that, get clear on that. It could expand in the future, but for now let's just get clear on what are our basic values. That would be the next step. This gives you a good picture of who you are and where you're headed. So, what this does is when you know what your core values are, you cannot negotiate on those things. So, this helps you to live in alignment with your core values, and this helps you to not compromise when a situation comes, or any time that you feel like you are in a point where you're supposed to compromise your values, and when you stick to your values, that creates a sense of happiness and inner peace. So that's why we get clear on what our core values are in life. The next step would be to develop your inner skills like you self compassion, resilience, or gratitude. These type of skills you can develop within yourself. So what is self compassion? That's when maybe you treat yourself with so much kindness that you used to treat your dear friend. Maybe you don't show that compassion to yourself. So, showing that compassion to yourself will teach you what is self compassion. Then, coming up with resilience. Resilience, where you sit with your discomfort, letting those feelings to run through you, processing those feelings rather than running away from it. This will build up resilience. Now, if we talk about gratitude, gratitude is actually letting you know that everything will be okay. I mean, you are already a great person, you are already in your best version, and there's nothing wrong with you. So you stop chasing and you actually will start seeing you for who you are. And there is so much to be grateful for who you are. You're such an amazing person, and there is no need or there is no requirement to look outside of you, because you've got all these amazing feelings within yourself. And you start building those skill sets that we need, which we rarely talk about. And these are something that you can always build upon. You may not inherit them, so you develop them. People saying that, oh, I'm not empathetic enough. Well, if you're not empathetic enough, this is something you can build upon. It's not an excuse to say that you're not empathetic. You have to build upon your empathy, because that's what makes you human. This makes you sensitive enough to people's problems and their issues. And when someone shares their problems with you, how do you react to it? All these things can be built upon. You don't need to inherit them, you can just learn them throughout your journey in this life. So, develop your inner skill set. It's as important as any kind of soft skill that you're developing that could serve you well in your career. But this is most important thing that will stay with you forever. Another thing is to stay in the present moment. Learning to live in the present moment is so hard for us because we are constantly either worried about what happened in the past, or we worry about what's going to happen in the future. We rarely stay in this present moment, which is all we have at this point, right? Because we are taught to always think about the future, or we sometimes sit with guilt about something that happened in the past. We forget to be more and more present in our current reality, and this is what we can change. This is the only point that we have in our hands right now, which we can change. We can be a better person than we were, or we could be in the future. Or if you would like to be a better person in the future, start now. Start now, because this is the present moment we have. How do you stay present? There could be some short practices that you can follow anytime you catch yourself thinking about anything else rather than being in the present moment. For example, you're eating food and you're watching maybe a movie, or you're talking to someone else, or you're constantly overthinking, you don't have presence of mind. You're maybe absent, you're physically present, but your mind is somewhere else. If that's the case, learn to chew your food and taste your food and try to bring your mind back to where you are. Try to engage in some kind of senses. You're either touching your food, or you're tasting your food, or you're looking at it, or you hear yourself chew. One of these things you could use, which will help you to bring yourself back into that particular moment. And you can use these techniques to help yourself be in the present moment. Or something so simple like noticing your breath, how you take your breath, how you inhaling, how you exhale your breath. This helps you to come back into awareness of where you are, being in the present moment. And these could be some techniques that you can use, or maybe listen to music without doing anything else. So, when you do something, try to do just that and be very present with it. So, you put your full effort and all your attention to that thing, which is exactly what we call as being in the present moment. So, what it really does is that it reconnects you with your present self. It reconnects you with yourself, which is something that we forget to do. We are often lost in our thoughts and we forget to stay present with ourselves. We should spend time with ourselves. Or if you love to meditate, that is another way of listening to your thoughts and being in the present moment. You can practice that as well. So it would be easier for you to bring yourself back into awareness anytime you find yourself in thoughts or lost somewhere. So, these are some of these techniques I mentioned. These are some of these steps you could employ in your life, which will help you to bring yourself back into awareness and start being the center of your happiness rather than looking it outside of yourself, which could not be controlled, which will move away from you at some point. But these things that you find and build your inner strength and inner values and learning to be aware with yourself and being in the present moment, these things build who you are from the core. And these values are so essential. These steps are so essential, which we often forget because we don't have enough knowledge about it. We don't have enough teaching about it. We are not taught to do these things. We're often taught to look outside of ourselves for whatever sensation that we want to feel. So that's exactly my point today, is to be the center of your happiness. Now, stop chasing happiness like it's something outside of you. Start finding it within yourself. You realize that you are the space in which happiness can rise. You can be the source of your happiness. You don't need to look for it elsewhere. And stop grasping it and start being that happiness. Start being. And this also has so much to do with being your best version. Now, do you see, when you can provide the happiness and emotions that you were looking outside yourself, that makes you the best version already. This is another step towards being your best version. So when we think of doing skincare, or we think of doing a good building a good routine, we forget to do these things, and this is what builds you, and these things stay with you forever. These things don't change. They can be sustained as long as you are invested in your personal growth. So today, let's decide to take one of these steps at least and try to spend some time for yourself and find that happiness within your core, and it's lying somewhere within you, I'm sure. You just have to find it. You just have to find it, and you will never regret finding it, because then it gives you so much freedom in life that nobody or nothing can change that. It's within you. You found it, and it's a practice. This is not a destination. It could be something that you're going to have to practice in the coming time. You will have to give it some time and keep practicing it. Maybe some days you will lose it. You may feel like, I've lost that control of that happiness that I had. That's okay. That's okay, because this is not a destination. We're on a journey and we're trying to find that within ourselves again, and we can find it. Once we found it, we can find it again and again. So I urge you, I invite you to take this step for yourself and be the center of your happiness and be the best version of yourself. Thank you so much for listening.